Welcome, guys, and a very special episode of Kieran's Corner today. We have Hall of Fame CFL player Nik Lewis. He's the host of the Lulu Logic podcast and AO Sports athlete-owned content podcast. How you doing, Nick? Thanks for coming on, man. This is huge.
I'm good. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Excited to have you on. But with all the fans here watching, without further ado, it's time for Kieran's Corner.
Kick it and go, kick it and go. We'll slip on, spin, move, in zone, let's go. Off the sideline, a touchdown, I put on a show. Kick it and go. I had to kick off and go. Kick it and go. I had to kick off and go. We'll slip on, spin, move, in zone, let's go. Off the sideline, a touchdown, I put on a show. Kick it and go. I had to kick off and go.
Yes, guys, thanks for running through the intro once again. This is a very exciting episode for me. We know a few months ago I spoke to first-round CFL draft pick Ferren Churchill, who's gone to my Toronto Argos. But today we have a man who made CFL history on multiple times, Hall of Fame slot back, Nik Lewis.
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate you having me on your podcast. I love the intro as well. I noticed you're a Patriots fan and you like some Joe Burrow. LSU fan. That's awesome.
Yeah, Joe Burrow's my guy, man. And let's talk about you for a second, because you recently got inducted into the CFL Hall of Fame, and you currently hold the most career pass receptions in the league. How does it feel getting inducted into the Hall of Fame after being in the CFL for so long?
Felt good, man. Some people can say that they expected you to be there, but you never know when it's going to happen. You never know how it's going to happen, and just the whole process that went down was really good. So, very grateful for this, and it's been different. I've been having some great conversations with some great people lately, and the best thing about it is when it comes up and I get to tell them or somebody else says it. So, definitely put you in a different class, right? Different class. So it's awesome.
How was it when you played football in America? You played for Southern Arkansas, which is a D2 university. How big was the transition adjusting to the different rule set in the Canadian League? Or did you feel like it's football, so you can just go ahead straight away and play?
Yeah, I didn't feel like there was a big adjustment. I mean, the motions, I'd watched my cousin play, Tacoma, who's on my last Little Logic podcast. I'd watched him play for probably 5 years before, I think it was 5 or 6 years before I even got to the CFL. So watching him play arena football for that long, I got used to watching that motion and timing it up and doing different things like that. So that wasn't really new to me. And it wasn't that much of a difference. The 20-second play clocks was probably the hardest change, because you're going from 35, 40 seconds between plays to now 20-second play clock. But, it was good.
Yeah, you played slot back, which a lot of even our English listeners might not know, who are not familiar with the CFL. Slot back is basically like slot receiver and a little bit of running back almost. Is that a position? Did they give you that position on day one, or did they just see how you played in camp and then sort of gave you that position, seeing what your strengths and weaknesses were?
Well, just looking at how the CFL's set up, if you're the wide side receiver to the field, usually it's a Canadian position. If you're the wide side receiver to the boundary, usually it's someone that can run. And I wasn't a burner. I was about 4'5", but I wasn't one of those guys that can just go out there and just outrun people up and down the field. So that position's usually for somebody that can run, can get run by people, because you do clear out a lot for the boundary slot. So I started kind of in that boundary slot position, and that was my role. And not knowing then what I know now is that position is really the position, the key position. If you look at all the greats, right? It's from G. Roy and Milt, Jermaine Copeland, and all those guys, Fred Stamps, Jamel Richardson. Like, if you look at all of them, they all played right there. And that's where I kind of started at there. And then I moved over to the field to utilize a little bit more of my abilities, 4 or 5 years into my career because, Cope was there, Cope and Rambo to the boundary. So, yeah, slide back is just a mix of both, right? You're able to come in and protect. You're able to, take handoffs and do different things, get screen passes and shovel passes and things like that. So it's a nice little mix.
Yeah,
because you can do.
I know you said you weren't exactly a burner, but there's one thing you were very, very good at, and that was absolutely running people over. Anyone who's never seen you play, I think 90% of your highlights are you absolutely just mowing dudes down, trucking people. But you also have a great pair of hands as well, which is, people sometimes underestimate that in wide receivers now, which sounds crazy to think, but a lot of people always look for guys who are speed burners and who can make plays happen in open field. But the fact that you just had a safe pair of hands and were totally fine with running people over. And my Toronto Argos fell victim to that a few times. You just trucking dudes over. But we'll take a look at your career stats here. And let's start with the obvious one. Rookie of the Year. How did it feel when you won that award?
Felt great. I kind of felt like I had an inside track on the Rookie of the Year. When they announced the Eastern Rookie that year, it was a DB who had 3 or 4 picks, which is great. He played great as well. But having, I think, 8 or 9 touchdowns my rookie year and over 1,000 yards. And plus I was I think top 3 in punt return average that year, around 11.9 yards of return on punt return. I felt like I'd done enough to get the nod, and I did. So it was great.
And obviously you made CFL All-Star. You were an East All-Star in 2016, a West All-Star in 2006, 2007, 2010, 2012. And then you're obviously a CFL All-Star in 2010 to 2012 as well. How was that when you first got named as a CFL All-Star not long after winning Rookie of the Year?
It was good. In 2005, I was actually the number 2 receiver in the league. It was kind of weird because I was first, and then the last defensive play of that season, our defense gave up a 44-yard touchdown pass to Jason Tucker, and that pass put him in the lead for the leader that season. And when Jason Tucker led the league in receiving that season, they came up because the media didn't like me back then, so they came up with this thing that only 2 slots and 2 receivers could win, as far as the East or West All-Star. And when they did that, they took me out of it. And Milt Stegall, who had 15 or 16 touchdowns that year, he was a West All-Star, and Jason Tucker was a West All-Star, and I didn't make it West All-Star. So then I couldn't be a CFL All-Star either. So my best year in the CFL, as far as stat-wise or as far as numbers, I didn't even make an All-Star team.
Which is ridiculous because through the first 9 seasons in your career, you went over 1,000 yards. Which, not many players can do that at any level of football, let alone professional football. On that 9th year, when you hit that 9th year of 1,000-yard receptions, how good did that feel, knowing that you were, probably the best receiver in the game at this point?
Well, I was really going after Terry Vaughn, man. When I first got into the league, I was compared to Terry Vaughn. As we had similar styles. Terry's a little shorter than I was, but also a little quicker and faster than I was as well. But we both broke tackles really well. And I was going after Terry Vaughn. He had 11 straight. And, up until I broke my leg, I was on pace for my 4 straight 1,200-yard season. Because 2010, 11, and 12, I had over 1,200. And I think going into those first 9 years, I was still averaging, I think, 1,160 yards a season. So I had really set the bar that I wanted my first year to be my worst year. And we were on that pace. But then I broke my leg.
Yeah, I was going to say your sophomore season, especially 1,379 yards, 9 touchdowns. I don't think people realize how ridiculous that is. But
And I wasn't an all-star.
Which is crazy to think about because you put up pretty much the best numbers in the league that year. Besides, obviously, Tucker, like you said. But
if that doesn't happen, if we don't give up that touchdown, we were up like 44-13 or 15 or something like that. It was the last game of the season. There was only like 20 seconds left on the clock, and the defense was out there just messing around. Trey Young was the safety. I still mess with him today. I said, man, you know how much you cost me by giving up that touchdown on that post route at the end of the game. He's like, well, because at the time when you're on defense, you're thinking like, I just don't want to get injured. We got the playoffs next week. You're just out there, and it doesn't matter if they score or not because they're not going to come back at this point. But yeah, we gave up that, and yeah, it kind of sucked at the moment. But I love Jason Tucker. He's an amazing person, amazing individual. So it works out.
Yeah, and then obviously you went on to win the Grey Cup, not once, but twice in your career. Both times with the Stampeders, and for the first time in 2008. Now, if you can take me back to that game, what are the sort of standout moments that you remember from that first Grey Cup victory?
I mean, I just remember just the whole day, right? I remember my whole day just going through everything. We were going against a tough Montreal team. Talking to Chip Cox on my podcast not too long ago, just remembering how many Hall of Famers were probably in that game. When you look at Hank and Cornish, Joffrey Cope, Charleston Hughes, and there's so many other guys on our side. But then you look at Montreal side with Anthony Calvillo and Avon Coburn and Jamel Richardson, S.J. Green, Chip Cox, John Bowman, and Anwar Stewart, and all these other top-notch players. And it was just one of those things where they were the veteran team that's been there multiple times. We were the young team that everybody probably felt like we wasn't ready. We were probably still a year away. Huff had just got there. But we were confident. We beat Montreal twice in the regular season. They swept the awards. And I remember everybody just like, Sandro didn't win the special teams player. Hank didn't win the MOP. So everybody was really focused on that. And what a great game. Only 2 touchdowns scored, one vice team, and then we had 5 field goals. But a great game to be a part of. My first Grey Cup. I think I finished with 11 catches for 122. And, just we did enough to get the win, right? And after the game was over, once the clock struck 0, it was just like, man, this is real. This is real.
I was about to say, I can't imagine that feeling of when the clock finally runs out and you're a world champion. That must have been a crazy feeling. Just how did it feel in the moment? The second the clock hit 0, was there any words, or was it just sort of you just sit there and took it all in?
Yeah, you sit there and take it all in because we were up 5 and they ran a play and the guy catches the ball down the sideline. You're standing on the sideline. You see the clock ticking down, and I don't know. It was close to maybe giving them one more play, but the referee said it was over. Everybody goes wild. I run out to about the numbers. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to. I end up running to the end zones and falling on my knees and just screaming. And it was just one of those moments where it just everything feels right. When I always say what gives a championship value is the journey. When people always say it hasn't sunk in yet, but the journey gives it the value. So all the failures you have, losing in the first round in 2005 and 6, in 2007, losing in the first round. So finally getting there and having that opportunity and getting in on the first opportunity when you get into the Grey Cup game, it just made everything worth it. Like I needed to go through those things to get here today, and just validates everything, all your hard work and effort. Yeah,
and unfortunately, obviously, we've had a postponed CFL season at this point. But you were the BC Lions running back coach. How was it going from playing in the CFL to then coaching in the CFL and then going to a completely different team for realistically only the third time in your entire career. Was it a big transition from playing to coaching, or because you had a couple years out, it was a bit easier?
No, it was coaching is what it was my dream job. It was one of the things that I've always grew up wanting to do. The first time I coached, I was in the 8th grade. I coached my sister's 6th grade basketball team, like her little league team, and I've always had a passion for coaching, and that was my life set. Right, I was going to go coach, and when I come out of Southern Arkansas, it's not like I'm thinking I'm going to go play professional football. So to do that was a bonus and to set me on my path. But I've always had a fascination for the game and being able to compete within the game mentally. So coaching was nothing different for me. I've been coaching. I've trained kids for 14 years now. I've been a part. I've coached and done different things. So, a lot of the receivers will tell you that I've coached them as well. I remember a lot of the young guys, Eric Rogers, and even when Marquay McDaniels got to Calgary and Kamar Jordan, all those guys, I've always poured into everything that I know. Even in even in Montreal with SJ and BJ Cunningham and all those guys, man, it's been a blessing. So to get to BC and have the opportunity not only to coach running backs, which I wanted to do because I know the outside game, I know the pass game. I wanted to learn more on the inside game and to just complete my knowledge on coaching, so I could say I know everything and not just have an idea or a clue. But and I was able to do that. But to coach Brandon Rutley, which we were teammates for 3 years in Montreal, and then he's over there with me in BC, was great. John White is an amazing running back, and Jamel Lyles and the rest of those guys. And, Mario and Mac, man, David Mackey is one of the freakish athletes I've ever seen. This dude is, Canadian running back, fullback. He can catch the ball. Chris Cooley, like as a tight end, he can run the ball. He hurdled somebody, and it was amazing. Like everybody went off. He comes to the sideline, and he's like, "That one's for you." And it was just amazing feeling to be around these guys. You take a Mario Villamizer late in the draft, and he comes in and he works hard every day. And then when Mackey has to go down with his knee, he steps in as a rookie and continues to push and push and push. And he had prepared all year for that moment, and he was able to go out there and do it. And those are the special things, right? Those are, as a coach or as as a kind of a mentor, those are always the special things, is when you can pour in other people and then you can see them go execute it and go do it. So I'll definitely, that's my favorite.
I was gonna say I've coached at the high school level. Just it's that point where being taken seriously in America as a young Englishman is a little bit harder with American football. But what you said perfectly encapsulates it. When you see one of your guys make a play, like if I'd been working with a corner on like, hey, look, this guy's going to try and cut across you, just stick with him, and then they bat a ball down or they get an interception and you show them how to make a play perfectly, and then they do that play. That's one of the best feelings out there. I think maybe even an equivalent to scoring a touchdown or scoring a goal in football or something. So it's definitely a great feeling. And clearly you're very passionate about wanting to remain in coaching. Hey, if you want to come over to the Toronto Argonauts and coach our wide receivers, we've had a little bit of a problem. I think we've skirted the cap this season, if you see the signings we've done. But obviously, your first 10 years are at the Calgary Stampeders. But then you got signed by the Montreal Alouettes, originally to a 1-year deal, and then they extended you. How did it feel moving to a different team after you just spent a decade with the team that drafted you?
Well, 11 years in Calgary was great. To be able to accomplish what I accomplished in Calgary. And I always said I'd be in Calgary as long as I upheld my end of the bargain and they upheld their end of the bargain. And that's what happened. And breaking the leg in 2013, had a lot of issues in 2014 with injuries. Been one of the top one of the highest paid guys on the team, you understand if you're not able to go out there and compete at that high level. And, I've had conversation with Dave where Dave Dickinson, the head coach, and he would be like, you were open a lot. It's just that Bo was his first year really starting. And there was a lot of times I didn't get to practice, or when I did practice, I couldn't go out there and just practice hard because I had to make it to the game. So Bo didn't really trust it, right? And there was times where I was open on plays and I just didn't get the ball. And that was a trust factor between Bo and I because, as a quarterback, you have to trust your receivers. And when you're young, you need those practice reps. And that's what I wasn't able to provide to ease him a little bit. But then there was games where I did. There was games I went out and put up 98, 100 yards and did those things. But I wasn't doing it consistently and missed, I think, 5 or 6 games that year as well with my injury. So it just had to come to an end. But we were discussing coaching. Saskatchewan, I discussed with them about coming in and coaching receivers. And then Jim Pop gave me a call and asked me if I wanted to keep playing. I had to take a couple of days to think about it because, honestly, after the 2014 Grey Cup, I walked into that stadium thinking this was probably my last game. And so, to get my mind wrapped around going back out there and doing it again. But then you think about, man, I'm about to go play with John Bowman. I'm about to go play with Chip Cox. I'm about to go play over here. I get to learn from Anthony Calvillo and do all these different things. And, Fred Stamps is there. S.J. Green is there. And they had Tyrell Sutton and Steph Logan and Rutt. And it's like, why would I miss this opportunity to go stood up with some great athletes, right? So it was definitely an eye opener. I thought it was going to be a 1-year deal, but we had a little success and turned into 3.
Well, I was going to say, even then, your 2016 season, 1,100 yards, 3 touchdowns, you could still play. I think it was very clear you were still the same Nik Lewis that had done 9 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons that you did with Calgary. So clearly you could still compete at the highest level of the game. And coming back from a broken leg, that's just crazy. Not a lot of players can come back from a broken leg and then have another 1,000-yard season, even a couple years removed from that. It's a great feat to have. But there's one thing that I don't think enough people talk about in the CFL, and it's the fact that how much opportunity players have because they've now done the international draft, the CFL international draft, and we don't see that much in the NFL. They've got the NFL Academy in London, but outside of that, they don't give the same opportunities to athletes that the CFL does. Do you see this international draft and the international programs that open up really expanding the CFL into something that isn't just in Canada, or do you think they're just going to maybe make more Canadian teams as they bring in more and more international talent?
Well, I think there's a big growth spot, right? So there's got to be growth. I've seen the growth in Canadians from the time I got into the league until now. Getting these opportunities, having a goal when you're in one of these other countries, and you can say, okay, we have a partnership with the CFL. This is my goal now, right? It's not the goal to play on the best team in Switzerland or Austria. It's now to make it to the CFL. And you're going to start challenging yourself and you're going to see what the prerequisite is. But right now, I think it's half-baked, right? It's a half-baked idea. You have a global draft. You want to put some people on the team, but you notice so many kickers and punters are chosen. But I think if you want that to happen, you have to invest in them, right? CFL is looking for it as a way for people to invest in the CFL for TV rights and different things like that. It improves the money, the income, the visibility of the CFL, which is great. But now the CFL needs to invest in these athletes to improve their level of play because as we've seen last year or in 2019, I think only 3 or 4 guys actually got on the field and played in that from their international teams, right? That's what you need, right? You need guys on the field, not just on the roster. And if they're taking American spots, right now there's nobody that I've seen in the international draft that can come over and just take an American spot.
Yeah, I think, they're fostering talent, but maybe not developing it in the ways that they should, if that makes sense. Like, but obviously there was the big talk about the potential XFL merger. Did you feel like that was good or bad for the CFL?
I think it just depends on how you look at it. If the CFL is looking for money and they're able to get money, they win. If the XFL is looking for validity and they get that, they win. So it just depends on how you look at everything. If it's a supportive system of each other, which the XFL needs talent, right? The lack of quarterbacks and the lack of really good quarterbacks hurts football. Like, it's such a crucial position. And if you watch the XFL, they had some players played really well, and they had a couple quarterbacks. But if the XFL comes in and takes Bo Levi Mitchell or some of the top quarterbacks in the CFL now begins to struggle. So how does this work? How does this partnership work? Is it just the Grey Cup champs play the XFL champs? And then how much do you pay them? The Grey Cup check hasn't changed in 20 years. So then how much do you pay them to play an extra game that means nothing? And then if they get hurt in that game, where's their security?
Yeah, that's the point. I think people don't think about that as well, because obviously the NFL just added the extra game, and you see a lot of people like the Twitter warriors and stuff saying, "Oh, it's only one extra game," but they don't realize how physical football is. Like, yeah, you see the padding, you see the helmets, and there's a misconception there, but football is a very physical sport. I played a little bit myself. I had my bell rung a couple times. Like, I'm 5'9", 180, like soaking wet. So like these games are hard on anyone's body.
The NFL's downhill. The NFL's a downhill game, and that, like, for linemen, the O-line, D-line, linebackers, running backs, that's a lot of pounding. We had a guy who wore a special helmet with some monitors in it, and it recorded basically the effect of 33 minor car crashes in one CFL game, right? So if you have 33 minor car crashes in one game, and the CFL's game is totally different, it's a way less physical at the point of attack, right? You'll get some big hits, you'll get some things, but it's so spread out and it's more stretch, right? If you're looking outside zones and stretch zones and different things on scheming wise, where the NFL is straight downhill, inside zone, a little stretch, and everybody's pounding each other from boom, 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 every play, right? So then that's what's going to happen. And you look at all these brain injuries and things like that, and it's got to be, you have to really consider, when you're upping this one game, what are you doing to counteract that? Are you putting more money into, and it's not just concussions, right? People don't talk about concussions. You don't have to have a concussion. It's about brain damage. Like, what are you doing to put it into brain damage research so that you can slow down that or recover from that brain damage that you're getting, right? I'll never tell somebody not to play football because of it, because you can fall in a sinkhole, you can get in a car wreck and whiplash into your airbag and have the same amount of brain damage or worse, right? So you can't protect yourself from life, but at the end of the day, you have to be smart and understand, if you're going to play more, you need to protect your brain. And the only way you can do that is through brain recovery, and you can expand your brain, right? So I've been doing stuff like that for the last 2 years, and I'm working on some stuff with a company called Invicta VR for athletes, and turning and bringing brain change into the VR world. So all that different stuff, man, is what's needed, right? If you're going to do those things.
Yeah, I don't think that's talked about enough, especially by fans, is that your body goes through hell playing football. It's a very tough, very physical sport. And we talk about all the time at the college level, when these universities always say, "Oh, we can't pay players," or they get paid in scholarships or whatever. And it's like, you don't realize these guys are playing for free. And one wrong hit on a snap, or they get their ankle snagged by a turf monster, or just any of these small things, and their career is gone, their scholarship is gone, and then where are they? So I think it's very important that pro teams as well, they need to have a plan for athletes leaving the sport, because you've transitioned very well into, from a player to then a coach, but you've also got a lot of business ventures outside of it. But not all players do that. Not all players have those ideas, or have even just, the life experience to go out there and save their money correctly and start business ventures and keep building on themselves after they've left the sport, because some guys will just feel without purpose almost. We see it with a lot of players who hang on too long in the same sport. Do you think it would be very important for the CFL to set something up for players when they retire? Maybe, giving them a small pension or something like that if they take a percentage of their earnings, and give them a pension when they retire, or just anything they can do to help players when they leave. What do you think is the best way to approach that?
Education. I think it's on the players. I always go back to never believing I was going to be a pro athlete, right? When you're a D2 walk-on, it's not like, oh, I'm about to go play pro football for 14 years and go in the Hall of Fame. So my mindset was elsewhere. And for me, I've always been an entrepreneur, and I've always been able to go out and say, okay, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to create. And that's what I've been able to do outside the game. And I walked away from Montreal with 1 year left on my contract, and a lot of guys play until they can't play anymore because they fear, what are they going to do next? Or, you've prepared for these moments, and like, you work so hard for a 3-year career on average. And once that's over, you're lost, because you're like, I put so much effort into this. Sometimes you're disappointed, like, I can still play and I'm still not playing, and that disappointment can turn into anger and different things, and all these emotions that play within you. But you got to be educated. I think that you can't give anybody anything. You have to educate people. And once you educate them on, what's next, right? Setting up their next venture, setting up their next big thing is the best thing you can do. And I've been fortunate to use my platform and to be able to use football as a career to get around a lot of CEOs of companies and a lot of people that I can call friends that are now in my network, right? When we're doing events, I was able to talk to different people and hang out with different people. And it was just in my personality. So, they say you pretty much make what, accumulation of what the 5 people around you are making, right? So I was able to improve that area. And by doing that, it really helped me in this next venture, which is AO Sports.
I was about to say, that's what I like about AO Sports, is that it's something for athletes who, but I think that maybe comes from, like you said, being a D2 walk-on. You knew that, the next game wasn't given, and the next contract extension wasn't given, and you always had to have a backup plan. And that's, look, even if you've not come to this video not seeing Nik play, you got to go watch him play. This dude was a baller. Like, some of the plays you made, you just, I wouldn't have want to tackle you. I say that much. Like, I know I'm not a huge dude or whatever, but I still would not have wanted to tackle you ever. I'd have got my ass run over for sure. But I think that is from that walk-on mentality. You knew that you had to have something ready for when your career finished. And I don't think all players, especially guys who grew up being the best guy on their team, being the highly scouted, being the best guy on their college team, and then they flame out and maybe don't have a backup plan. Is that what you want to achieve with AO Sports? Make sure that guys who, don't leave the sport too late, don't get too hurt, but also bringing in guys who have talent and can do stuff outside of football. Do you think it's important to get a lot of former athletes to come in and, take their side of things to take AO to the next level?
Yeah, of course. And for me, like I said, the educational pieces, right? AO is just going to be accumulation of athletes that come from different backgrounds, all walks of life, men and women, that can come in and want to provide content, right? So when you're looking in the content space, there's a lot of great athletes that provide content, but they're not getting paid for it properly, right? YouTube is not a great monetization system. And so we're coming in with a fresh look, giving athletes 100% ownership of their content and allowing them to make even more money than they're making on any other platform. And it's not even close, right? So you're able to use your following that follows you to support you now, and now you can build something that can last so much longer by getting your point across and being who you want to be, and improving your social impact, right? We always talk about a lot of different things, but the social impact is key, right? How do we affect the communities that we're living in and the neighborhoods we're in a positive way? And we have to improve our social impact, and we have to help people. And I just think today's time is proven what needs to happen, right? With everybody on the virus and different things going on, it's time that people can really come together and just help each other, right? So as athletes, we need to come in and help our communities that we're in, and we need to be able to just provide great content and live free, right, of thought. But to be able to do that is going to be the key, and AO is going to be that platform. And we've met with some great people, and I'm looking forward to this summer's launch and all the good things that we're going to have come out of AO Sports.
Yeah, it's great to see something like that as well, a platform for athletes, and they can speak their mind on issues they want to talk about. And I like that you're giving them that free reign to, make content and get paid well for it. And we saw with like your podcast with the Invicta VR CEO and what was it, Javon Johnson. You have interesting conversations with these guys, and I think you ask some questions to them that maybe take their guard down a little bit, and they reveal quite a lot of information to you, which, like you said, you're putting yourself around CEOs and stuff, and that's a very smart move moving forward.
You say that real quick, but the thing is that, like this interview, like I'm a very open person. I'll talk about anything, anytime, but a lot of guys won't. But then when they sit down with me, they're able to open up a little bit more because they know I've been through their same shoes. They know I understand it. So when we have those conversations, it's more of a conversation than an interview, and you're having a good flowing conversation that allows them to kind of open up on some of the things that they've been through and some of their challenges, right? So, and that's what we just want, right? So we just wanted to be organic, and that's the best part.
But that's what I said to you before the show, like how nervous I was to speak to a guy I watched play football for so many years. And you immediately put me at ease, and it flows just like a conversation, and it's just fun to talk. I obviously want to ask you questions because I'm crazy interested.
Let's go
in all the ventures you got going. But the one question I'm only going to ask two more questions, but obviously we're going to talk some more. But how did you feel when when you stepped up and got inducted to the CFL Hall of Fame? How did that feel? Because that's a huge moment.
Yeah. My mom passed away 3 months ago, and it's one of those things that she really wanted for me. She was a huge inspiration in my career. And, from the moment Matt Dunnigan, who called me and got to tell me the news and shared the news with me, the moment he told me, it was one of those things where I instantly thought of my mother, right? Her impact and everything that she had done, and how I could just see her dancing now and clapping her hands. And, it was just one of those things where it was very special, right? And this puts you to say you're a professional athlete, you're part of the 1%. But to say you're a Hall of Famer is even smaller, right? So 316, I believe now, CFL Hall of Famers. I think I was the 22nd first ballot Hall of Famer. So it's a very rare class to be in. And when I sit back and think of all of the great players that I got to play on the same team as that aren't in this group, and it's just like, I can't believe I'm in this group. And when I'm sitting on a Zoom call with Marcus Allen, or sitting on a Zoom call with Damon Allen, or all these people, it's just very special to be able to share that moment, right? To share that, it's just it's hard to explain. It's such a great honor.
I was about to say it must have been incredibly emotional. I mean, not
Yeah.
many athletes can say they play professional football. They're not, not even close to that number can say they're in the Hall of Fame. And obviously, you only played for 2 teams your whole career, but would you have preferred to have finished everything out in Calgary, or were you happy that you got to go to the Alouettes and sort of, experience a different city in Canada for a few years?
Well, I love my time in Montreal. I think it was needed. I was voted captain for the first time in my career in Montreal. Um, I've enjoyed my relationships that I built in Montreal. I thank Jim Pop, who I still talk to on a good basis now, and for bringing me in. And the wedding halls were amazing. And just to share that time, be a part of Vernon Adams' career when he started out, Rakeem Cato, and all these guys, man, it's just I feel like my life is a true blessing because I got to be a part of so many young guys and truly just get to work with them and talk to them. And I remember in training camp, my first year in Montreal, I'm helping a young guy when we were watching one-on-ones, and I'm helping him like set up and different stuff. And SJ taps me on the shoulder and says, "Don't forget about me, bro." I'm like, SJ, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Like you're a perennial all-star. And he's like, I want the help too. And at that moment, it was something that really stood out to me. And I got to be to those guys what Cope and Rambo were to me, right? To be able to pour into those guys, help them to do that. But you don't get here by yourself. It's a lot of sacrifice from a lot of people. It's a lot of great guidance from a lot of older teammates and teammates that allow you to do this. So it's great.
I was about to say, like, that must have been a nice moment when a guy who is as good as he is then comes to you and's like, "Hey, and any tips appreciated." You got voted captain, so obviously the guys had so much respect for you. How did it feel becoming captain for the first time in your career?
It felt great. I didn't expect it. It's just one of those things where, you just go to work every day, right? You go to work every day. People always say, "Oh, that's Nik." They know me. I'm going to be the same on the field, off the field. I like to have a good time. I like to joke around. But when it's time to work, we work. And I go out there and I work hard. And that was one of the best parts with suiting up with Fred Stamps and SJ, man. They were just like Cope and Rambo and Thelwell and all those guys, Brett Ralph. Like, they come to work. And we put it out there every day. We go run around, we get it in. And it's just true blessing to be a part of so many great receivers and to be a part of their careers. And it was truly a blessing. And I think that's the best part for me, is that coming from a Division II school and you get to training camp, you just want to fit in, right? You want people to know who you are. When Wayne McGarry's there, I've watched play at Texas, and Albert Connell, and then my roommate Salacio Sanford, who had won like the best player in NFL Europe award, and he played in the NFL for the Bears and played arena football, and here I am coming out of Division II school, and it's like, okay, well, I got to wake up every day to compete to show that I belong, right?
Yeah, that's that must have been surreal as well, getting to the league and just being around so many greats immediately. But when you moved to Montreal, my understanding that's a majority French-speaking city. Was that kind of a big adjustment, or is it enough English speakers there that it didn't really make too much of a difference?
It's a little bit of an adjustment. Thank God for Google Translate, right? And you can just hold the picture up and it translates it for you. Hold your phone up with the camera and it translates everything for you. But between that and taking the metro, right? Taking the metro every day to get to the stadium, Olympic Stadium, where we practiced and everything. So that was the biggest adjustment. I was used to driving to the stadium, and I never took my car to Montreal. So I just took the metro to the stadium and back and Ubered everywhere else. So that was the only adjustment really in Montreal. The speaking wasn't bad.
Yeah, I mean, I learned a little bit of French at school, but immediately forgot it the second I left school. So I'll be useless as well. But how was the because we always see NFL players talk about, like, they get mobbed by fans and stuff. How are CFL fans? I feel like they're a bit more, maybe not at games, but like outside of games, I think they're a bit more respectful than the average, like, crazy NFL fan. Do you have any cool fan interactions from the CFL?
Oh man, a lot of fan interactions, man. Eating at a restaurant, and after you eat your meal, the chef will come out and ask for an autograph or ask you how the meal was and things like that. It's real chill, real cool. More in Canada, you hear, like, I'm walking in a mall or something, you'll hear somebody say, "Hey, there goes Nik Lewis," or something like that, but they don't really bother you and things like that. But it's cool. I'm always that's one of the things about me. I've always been fan engaging, and I love hanging out with fans and talking to people about different things. So I've never been afraid of that. I guess if it did get to that level to where everybody kind of gravitates to you and it becomes a crowd, then it becomes something too much. But yeah, when it's only a couple of people, it's always great.
Yeah, and this question I like to ask people, and some people don't know how to answer it, but this is the last proper question I'm going to ask you. And how do you want to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered not by football. I'd like to be remembered by what I gave back and who I was, and positivity and being able to push forward life. Right, where it's like everything's a relay. When you get the baton when you're a kid, and you grow up, and you got to hand it off sometime. And when you hand it off, what are you handing off? And are you in a better position? Is your family in a better position? Are you in a better position? Where are you handing this baton off to the next one to run that race? Right. And are we advancing life? Are we advancing people? And I think that's the biggest thing, is how can you make your biggest impact? And if I always say, if my legacy is football, then I failed. Right. But if I can use football to create a bigger legacy to help way more people, then that's when I truly succeeded.
Yeah, I love that answer. You've just, you know what I mean? Everyone knows you as a football player, of course, but you realize that you're using football to leave a massive positive impact off the field, which, I think a lot of fans and even some athletes don't realize that how important that actually is. So that's, it's probably one of the best answers I've ever been given to that question. I throw it out there because it's like quite a deep question, but
it's so true, man. Like, what do you give people? Right. That's why I love, I've never turned down an interview of somebody's podcast, right? Because I understand the possible impact of me coming on here that helps you. But I also understand me getting my message across to help people, right? Becoming good people, do the good thing, be the good person, right? So, I appreciate you sharing your audience with me. And, I just want to come on and just shed the light over what it should be about, right? We use sports as entertainment, and I understood I was an entertainer, right? But I also understood that I have to carry this on throughout the rest of my life. And, being a Hall of Famer is great, but I've always thought about the Hall of Fame of life. Like, what does the Hall of Fame of life look like? And how do I get to that? How do I become that, to where, nobody's perfect. I make mistakes just like everybody else, but how do you get to the Hall of Fame of life? And how do you truly impact so many people that when you leave this earth, people can look at you and say, you know what? The first thing I think about of Nik Lewis is this. And it's not, oh, he was a hell of a football player.
I was about to say, you want to be remembered as Nik Lewis the man, not Nik Lewis the slot back. You want people to speak. Man, that's a great answer. I'm not going to lie to you. That's one of the most insightful answers I've ever had. Because a lot of people just talk about, I want to be remembered as a great entertainer. I want to be remembered as a great coach or whatever. But you want to be remembered as a great man. I think that's very important. And maybe some people
they can say, but he was a hell of a football player too. That would be nice. But you really want to be able to move that forward, right? I played football and I entertained you. I was great at doing that. But now let's feed you what you need. I've got you to the tent of the circus. Now it's time to give you everything you need.
Exactly, which, brings me on to the final point of the show, really. We've talked about your other business ventures and your podcast and stuff, but now before we close the show out, tell us what you've got coming up. Give us out your social media handles, where we can find your work, where we can connect with AO Sports, where we can connect with you online.
Yeah, so my personal is NIKEL18 on Instagram and Twitter. Nik Lewis, NIK Lewis on LinkedIn. Right now, my Facebook is full. I have like a 200 or 300 person wait list. It's been like that for years now. But you can follow me there, the Lulu Logic group, LEW, LOGIC, one word. That Facebook group, it's a positive group with positive people. Post anything negative, I erase it twice. I delete you. But so far for a year now, it's been just a positive group. People can share what they're doing. People can share everything about, their great day. We've had some challenges and stuff. So that was great. And AO Sports TV is on across the board. AO Sports TV on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and on Facebook group. You can go to AO Sports TV and just see everything that's going on in AO Sports. We're looking to launch this summer, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be giving away fan dream trips. So whatever your dream trip is, you're going to be able to win dream trips, so much more, exclusive merchandise from our athletes. One of the cool things about AO, one of my board members is a man by the name of Gerald Smiley, and he was drafted by the Texas Rangers out of high school, and he just started his own company called Chip In, and Chip In's incentivized giving app. So you're going to be able to pay your monthly subscription for AO through Chip In, and you will receive offers from all of our sponsors. So if Nike's our sponsor, you're getting an offer every month you pay your membership. So if we have 20 sponsors, you'll get 20 offers, right? How cool is that? And then we're putting on events, we're doing different things. So you're going to get a lot of benefit for a membership that's under $10 a month, right? And that's what we want to keep it to, where we're helping people, and we want people to be a part of our community because we're going to have a lot of fun in this community. You're going to be connected to athletes, winning exclusive merchandise as well by paying your memberships and taking those dream trips. So we're looking to have a lot of fun with everything. And we're growing our talent roster every day. We're on the phone with more and more athletes, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to sit down and just talk to athletes about business and talk to athletes about where we're going. And right now we're on a great path and a great trajectory to get that done. So, and we're not excluding media members either, right? So we're bringing in media members that are going to be a part of this as well. It won't just be athletes. It'll be sports content creators as well. So yeah, anything is possible at this point.
Well, we'd always love to contribute and bring more eyes to this as well as we can. But from me, I am Kieran, the Himbo, F10Y. On the Twitter, you can catch me shouting at Steelers fans, but also head over to full10yards.com/shop to get your hands on the draft guide. All physical copies are gone now, guys, but we still have digital copies available for purchase. I will send you a copy to your email as well, Nick, because I think that'd be something interesting if you've got some time to read. But from everyone here at Full 10 Yards, all links down below. My name has been Kieran. This has been Nik Lewis. And we'll see you in the next one.
Kick it and go. Kick it and go. We'll slip on, spin, move, in zone, let's go. Off the sideline, a touchdown, I put on